Chapter 3 Analytical Thinking by Brandy Phillips, Abdi Rasami, Devin Carey, and Jenny Tang. First Line Cases produces both standard and specialty briefcases. The standard briefcases sell at $26.25 per unit. They cost $24.25 to produce, meaning that each unit grosses $2 in revenue. The specialty briefcases are sold at $42.50 per unit. They cost $31.40 to produce, meaning that each unit grosses $11.10 in revenue. The company is considering using activity-based costing as an alternative to the traditional costing system. We will be answering the 4 questions posed in the problem. The first part is as follows. Using activity-based costing, determine the amount of manufacturing overhead costs that would be assigned to each standard briefcase and each specialty briefcase.
The per-unit manufacturing overhead cost derives from taking the sum of their total manufacturing costs and dividing it by the total units of briefcases produced each month. For the standard briefcases, the total manufacturing cost is $44,800. We would take this number and divide it by 10,000, the total number of units produced. The quotient of these two numbers would give us the per-unit manufacturing overhead cost of $4.48. In order to find the per-unit manufacturing overhead cost of specialty briefcases, you would do the same thing. The total manufacturing cost is $54,200. We would take this number and divide it by 2,500, the total number of units produced. The quotient of these two numbers would give us the per-unit manufacturing overhead cost of $21.68.
Next, using the data computed in Part 1 above and other data from the case as needed, determine the unit product cost of each product line from the perspective of the activity-based costing system.
To find the total unit product costs, you need to add up the costs of each activities. This includes the material costs, direct labor costs, and the manufacturer overhead costs. For the standard briefcases, material cost equals the sum of all materials that go into one unit. This is the sum of the leather, $8, and the fabric, $2. This totals $10. The direct labor cost is calculated by multiplying the amount of time it takes to produce a single unit, half an hour, with the price per direct labor hours, $12, and this yields $6. As we calculated in the last question, the per unit manufacturing overhead cost is $4.48. Add all of these up and you get a total unit product cost of $20.48 for the standard briefcases. For the specialty briefcases, the material cost equals the sum of all materials that go into one unit. This is the price of the leather, $12, the price of the fabric, $1, and the price of the synthetic material, $7. This totals $20. The direct labor cost is calculated by multiplying the amount of time it takes to produce a single unit, 25 minutes, with the price per direct labor hours, $12. This yields $4.80. As we found out in the last question, the per unit manufacturing overhead cost is $21.68. Add all this up and you get a total unit product cost of $46.48 for the specialty briefcases.
Then, within the limitations of the data that has been provided, evaluate the president's concern about the profitability of the two product lines. Would you recommend that the company shift its resources entirely to the production of specialty briefcases? Explain.
When using activity-based costing, it was discovered that the unit product cost of the standard briefcases was lowered, and the cost of the specialty briefcases was raised. When using traditional costing methods, the unit product cost of standard briefcases was $24.25. This cost dropped to $20.48 when using ABC. If the selling price was kept the same, this drop in production cost will yield $3.87 more profit, raising the total profit margin to $5.77. However, the opposite effect happens when applying an activity-based costing system to specialty briefcases. Originally, the price per unit was $31.40. However, after applying the new system, the cost rose to $46.48. This raised in cost by $15.08 means that the gross margin declines greatly, assuming the price level is kept same. The new gross margin by units will be negative $3.98, meaning that for each unit produced and sold, the company is losing $3.98. Based on this data, it will be foolish for first-line cases to switch production entirely to specialty briefcases.
Lastly, first-line cases stated that the competition hasn't been able to touch our price on specialty business. Why do you suppose the competition hasn't been able to touch first-line cases' prices?
There are a few reasons why the competition might not be able to match the price set by first-line cases for their specialty briefcases. First, and probably most likely, the competition wouldn't have other products that would balance out the losses incurred by setting the specialty briefcase price so low. In first-line cases situation, they are able to produce and sell the briefcases at $42.50 only because their other product, standard briefcases, is producing enough revenue to cover the losses incurred. According to previous calculations, $42.50 is too low of a price when only that product is being produced and sold. It does not cover the cost of production. Another reason could be that the competition created strong brand loyalty, which means that their customers are willing to pay more for the same product just to have a certain brand attached to it. Continually, the competition could have analyzed that it is more profitable to sell less products at a higher price than to sell more products at a lower price. This all comes down to the production cost structure, whether the competitors have high or low variable costs and therefore operating margin. Whatever the reason is, ceteris paribus, first-line cases cannot afford to maintain the current price of their specialty briefcases if they choose to solely produce these briefcases.
Thank you for listening to our presentation. Any questions?